I have to say, this is the little lens, additional lens that I've been most looking forward to. So I don't do a ton of shooting with my iPhone, but I am going to be taking it out today for sure, because whenever we go on like little weekend getaways or little day trips, I don't necessarily want to be carrying around any of my big cameras. So I bring my iPhone, right? Or whatever smartphone you have. Probably that's the one. You know, there's that saying, right? The best camera is the camera with you, which is right because you don't have any other choices. But this isn't actually a pretty good camera. And I think this is going to make it better, because one of the things, and it was funny, I actually just watched a video from Potato Jet. For those that haven't watched his channel, it's entertaining and some good info. And he actually put an iPhone up against like a full pro camera and had people try to figure out which was which. And one of the biggest giveaways was that frame rate. So it seemed choppy with movement, right? And that's just because on an iPhone, with the default application, you and I can't set the shutter speed, right? So it just automatically moves it back and forth to whatever it needs. So today, when I go out and test this, I'm going to be using a program called Filmic Pro, which I can set the shutter speed. So I'm going to be shooting in 24 frames, and I'm going to be shooting at 1/48th of a second. So that should give you that nice motion blur. Now the issue, of course, is shooting at 1/48th of a second at 24 frames is actually gonna probably allow too much light to come into the shot. So variable ND filter. Yeah, that's kind of exciting. So let's take a look at what comes in this box. We'll see how it mounts on the phone, and then I'm gonna head out and try it out. Okay, before we go too much further, you can see this is actually 22 reviews. That's not bad, 5 stars, and I appreciate this. I've tried a lot of Sandmarc lenses, and they've all been really good. You pay a little bit for that quality, but you get the results from it, which is kind of what we want, right? Looks like a big ND filter. Motion variable filter for iPhone, $99 US. There you go. So you got a ND8 to ND64 between 3 and 6 stops, which is awesome. Universal patented clip-on system. And it looks like, because it's so large, it'll cover the wide, anamorphic, and telephoto lenses. And I'm curious, I don't know if it will, but I'm curious if it will mount onto the phone with a case. I don't know, but it's one of those things too that if you have any of the Sandmarc cases, which I have a bunch, but they're all for the iPhone 12. So maybe I'll reach out or maybe I'll see if I can buy one for the iPhone 13 Pro. But we're gonna try it as it is today. So here it is. This is it. It actually looks like it comes with, or shows it with kind of my phone. So that means it should work, right? Motion filter, variable ND filter for iPhone. There it is. Designed in California, because that's important for you guys to know. Oh yes, and last but not least, take dynamic landscape photos. And this is one of those things too, right? Like when you're taking a lot of photos with, and I didn't really realize this. I was watching this with, again, another video, and they were talking about like macros and things like that. And to get, you know, ND filters and like circular polarizers and things like that, they use it as much as possible to really get that those colors and that information back, especially into the highlights, right? So I was like, oh yeah, add motion blur. This is what we're going for with video, and adapts your exposure to different environments. Yeah. So again, we're going to be using this to shoot, well, video today. If you guys are interested, we may do a video on the photo side of it, but really today's going to be video. Let's see what comes in here. Ready? Oh, I like that it comes in a little case. Big box for not a, I don't know if there's anything else in there. Oh, there is in the very bottom. It's kind of underneath. You guys see? Maybe you guys can see that in here. If you look, it looks empty. It looks empty, but there's a there's a hidden door. Hidden door. What is that hidden? Oh, that's the clamp, right? That's the actual clamp you and I are going to use. So that's going on the actual phone right there. All right. No case, no nothing. Nope. Universal. So basically, this is it. And I'm guessing because of this, it's not really, there's no like mount thing. This is gonna be, you gotta use this. Now maybe they make another one, I don't know, that is designed specifically for their cases, and I am having all kinds of problems figuring out how to open this. There we go. Tear it open. Okay, so, can't tell. It's plastic. Now, their stuff is usually good plastic, but you guys can possibly see it right there. Hey, where am I going? There it is. So it's just a clamp. It's going to fit on your phone. Easy. You guys see it here. Nothing overly fancy, but we have a nice little case with. Look how big that is. You guys see that? Hey, that's large. You know, large and in charge. Your phone's gonna look like a professional. Like a professional. So, take this out. Ready? Now this feels like it's got some quality to it. That's got a little bit of weight. And you can see, hopefully you guys can see it right there. There's gonna be your different markings for the different, how dark that lens is gonna be getting. So darker, less dark, darker, less dark. Can you see that? You can see it through, right? See how much darker it gets? So it blocks a fair bit of light if you need it to, versus, right? And what are they saying? ND8. So that would be your ND8, and then that would be your ND64, and of course, all the way in between. And then this simply just screws onto this. Voila. And then you mount it however you want. Now I would mount it, you know, depending on how you're going to put this. If your camera's like this, I would put it this way so that the clamp is always kind of at the top so that you can see your numbers, just in case you don't have to get in front of me. Like, I can't tell how dark it is, because that would be an issue. So if I was shooting this way, which is what I would normally be doing, I would just take this and that. Is that it? That's all? You just kind of put it on there. Now I have it on a case. Seems to fit on a case. You know, seems to fit on there. I'm just going to bring up my camera real fast. Am I getting any vignetting? So nothing in the 1 times. 0.5 I am. So 0.5 I'm getting a little bit. Let's bring that down, because that's, oh no, that's as bright as it's getting. All right, maybe if I, no. So you may want it, you get a tad bit of vignetting in the corners for me if I'm using this case. Just a little bit, not much, just a little bit. You can maybe see it right there, possibly. It's just kind of creeping in on the corner there. But I think it's because it's raised up because of the case. Now, if I had this right down on the lenses, my guess would be you wouldn't see that. So let's just try that, because I think that's kind of important. And they show it here really with no, doesn't look like a case, or the case that they're using is ridiculously thin. So again, we're going to take this top up. This, yeah, see, when you get it, I think on its own lenses, maybe. Does it fit on there better? Let's see. So now I'm in video, just to see. So video wise, that's the 1 times. There is no vignetting. The 0.5, no vignetting on the 0.5. In the photo mode, at the 1, no vignetting. 0.5, yeah, see. Maybe a tiny bit, maybe in the bottom left-hand corner, but not much at all. but it's definitely got just a tiny bit. So just watch when you go wide, you may have to move it around. But in the 1 times and the 3 times, it's gonna work perfectly. And in video, it's because it automatically has a crop into the sensor. I think it's gonna be, yeah, video wise. Actually, you guys can't see it, but that looks okay. It looks good. All right, now the bonus here, of course, is I'm gonna be taking this out with Filmic, and you guys can see it here. Inside Filmic, Filmic has the ability, if you slide this over, to set the shutter speed, and I have mine set right now to 1/48th. So I can keep that there, and the top number is going to be ISO. So as I move this around, my ISO will darken or raise. So I should be able to get that exactly how I want it and keep motion blur. So we're going to go out and try that now. Okay, so we went out yesterday down, I don't know, to the beach, which it's the middle of winter here. So what were you doing at a beach? Doesn't matter. And it was way colder than I thought it was going to be, but I did some shooting with this. Yeah. So I'm gonna finish up this video and just be pretty fast. So number one, I shot some footage with this camera. This is my R6 with this lens on it, because for one, I wanted to see if you shot it in auto, what kind of shutter speed you would get. So I had my ISO down to 100. I was shooting at f2.8 because I wanted to get that nice shallow depth of field, and we were up at about 1/2000th of a second. So for video, not something that you necessarily want to do, because you really get that choppy look, and you get the choppy look because you don't get motion blur, and because the shutter, not that it's firing any faster, but it's at 1/2000th of a second, so every image that it does shoot in that we shoot 24 frames is really sharp. So the image is here, and then it's there, and it's like crisp, it's like little photos. And what you want to do is actually be able to slow that shutter speed down so that you get motion blur. So the images where there's movement have some blur to them, which is why they have that 180-degree rule for like 24 frames. So you want to shoot in and around 1/48th, 1/50th, somewhere in that range. And for us to get enough light, or to get not enough light to bring the light down 1/2000th of a second, which is why even on these kind of cameras, you really do still need ND filters, right, when you're shooting video. Unless you're like, I don't care. Which a lot of times you don't, because it's really about getting the shot versus is it perfect? Whatever. So when you're using like an iPhone, for instance, on the camera app, you and I really have no idea what the shutter speed is, because the shutter speed, the phone just kind of does it for you. It has a fixed aperture, so you can't adjust it. It's like 1.8 or something like that. And it's everything's automatic. So we used a program called Filmic Pro, and we could lock the actual shutter speed. So we went in and locked it at 1/48th of a second. We brought the ISO down as far as it could go. And when you let it just shoot with no ND filter on it, you got a white screen. It was so overexposed, like there was nothing, it was a white screen. So we ended up putting this on, this little fella right here, we put it on. I had to crank the ND all the way up as high as it would go, so get it as dark as possible. We got some actually really nice shots. And before I show you the shots with this, here's the shots without the ND filter using the actual iPhone's default application. And I'll just put them up here. A couple things. There definitely is some, I want to say stutter. It feels like stutter when there's movement. And again, it's because you get no motion blur. And if my mirrorless camera was shooting at about 1/2000th of a second, my guess is the iPhone is also shooting at about 1/2000th of a second. So you don't get any blur, and everything is just really sharp when you go through it frame by frame. Now, The other thing to look at is the color. And the color out of the iPhone, for whatever reason, definitely had a cool temperature. And not to say that it wasn't physically cold outside, it was, but it was a much cooler temperature than it should have been because of the fact that we had really nice sun. So it should have been a tad on the warmer side. When we look now at the footage, same phone, taken with the ND filter, the Sandmarc variable, like a couple things. First off, if you look at the image right away, it's just got a more pleasing tone. It's got a warmer tone to it, and I don't know if that's just the Filmic app versus, just the iPhone app. We were running just an 8-bit on both, so we weren't running in 10-bit, so just 8-bit in both, just right out of the camera. No editing on top of it, of course. You got a nice bit of motion blur on there, so when you look at frame by frame, anything that's movement has some blur to it, which means that the frames blend into each other, which just makes it feel smoother, which is what we want to get that nice cinematic, not looking like it was shot on a smartphone. So big bonuses, right? You get for some reason, you get a much nicer color. Again, I'm not 100% sure if it's the ND filter that's doing this. It may, or if it's the application that was doing it. But the big bonus, of course, and the reason that you and I use an ND filter is to be able to block some of that sun so that we can get our shutter speed down to that 1/48th if we're shooting at 24 frames, and around that 1/60th if we're shooting in around 30 frames. Fantastic. You know what? And I want to make sure you guys realize it's not for everybody, right? Like if I'm out and about shooting, and even yesterday, it was cold out. Am I going to want to have this on my camera all the time? No, because I want to be able to fire this in my pocket, take it out, shoot somebody, put it in my pocket, take it out and shoot somebody, put it in my pocket, take it out and shoot somebody. I don't want to have to put it in my pocket, take it out, go into my camera bag, go grab this, screw it on here, mount it, and then take a shot. And then when I'm done, unscrew it, take this off, put this into the holder, right? Every shot takes 10 times longer than normally. But if you want your shots to look better, and you want to have that nice cinematic, and you want it to compare, because if you look at, and I'll say these shot on iPhones, right? Or iPhone versus this, the only way to get it to be versus so that it's comparable is to make sure your shutter speed matches, right? Other than that, it's a dead giveaway. It's a dead giveaway when you look at a smartphone versus a professional camera. Now, not saying that I can't do the same with this and make it look choppy by not using an ND filter. 100% I can, right? But the big thing with this is if I want to, I can change the aperture size, right? I can change it so I can let in less light, which you can't do with an iPhone, which is why these are so important. I'm rambling. End result, really good, really happy. I think this, for anybody that wants to shoot cinematic and they want it to shoot film, and or they are shooting some parts of film that they're using that they want to be able to input or add some phone footage to it because they're primarily shooting off of bigger cameras, this is going to give you the best chance of adding it into the scene, adding it into the rest of the footage without people being like, oh, smartphone. Because it blends in. It blends in actually quite nice. All right, guys, super happy with this. Just realize, right? It's mounted by a clamp. And every time you need to use it, you're gonna probably take it off, put it on. Especially for those of us that are like using this as like a travel lens, because you can't keep it permanently mounted, right? You can't keep it permanently mounted on there. I kind of wish. Here's my wish, Sandmarc. If you're watching this, here's my wish. This with a case that you do specifically for this, yes, and then a sleeve like this, which mounts over the whole thing. So you get this, which is twice as long, so that you can permanently mount this on, and then you slide your phone in, because then it's there all the time. Foop, right? Maybe? I'm just thinking. All right, guys, I'm going to leave you there. Links to Sandmarc's website if you guys are at all interested in one of these variable ND filters. Their Motion ND Filter, I guess it's called. I like it. It's good. Links down below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the bell. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Later.